The garden existed in the liminal space between breath and bone, a tapestry of light and shadow where time folded into itself like origami. Here, a woman named Elara tended to her plot, a stubborn patch of earth she called the Grove of Certainty. Its soil was dense, clinging to her hands like a jealous lover. She knew every gnarled root, every crack in the bark of the ancient oaks, their branches etched with the scars of storms she'd weathered. At the grove's edge perched a clockwork sparrow, its brass wings stiff with disuse. Years ago, it had sung melodies that mirrored her laughter. Now, its gears ground in sync with her anxious thoughts, a metronome for her restless mind. Each morning, she wound its key, mistaking routine for devotion. One dusk, as she pruned a rosebush, its thorns drawing blood, a memory surfaced. Her grandmother's hands, weathered and warm, guiding hers to plant marigold seeds. A seed knows its season, the old woman had whispered. Even when the gardener doubts, Elara blinked, and the memory dissolved like sugar in rain. The grove was encircled by a fence forged from forgotten questions. What if I'd said yes? What if I'd stayed? Its iron bars hummed with static, a barrier against the unknown. Beyond it, colors pulsed in rhythms her eyes couldn't parse, and laughter drifted like wind chimes. One night, she traced the fence and found a fossilized firefly embedded in the metal. Its light had dimmed, but its wings still quivered. As she pried it free, the static softened to a murmur. For the first time, she wondered, what questions had she buried to build this wall? The seedling emerged on a morning veiled in mist. No larger than her thumbnail, it glowed with a light that mirrored her pulse. Elara recoiled, fearing it a flaw in her careful order. Yet, when she sketched it in her journal, strokes tentative then bold, the light brightened. That night, she dreamed of floating in a starless sky, the seedling cradled to her chest. A voice, neither male nor female, vibrated through her. You are not the gardener. You are the soil and the storm. She woke with her hands clasped around dirt, her cheeks wet. Kneeling, Elara pressed her ear to the ground. A low hum rose, subterranean harmonies from roots entwined like neurons. They sang of thirst, the ache of empty hands, and hunger, the pull of purpose. When the oldest oak collapsed, its trunk hollowed by beetles, she did not weep. Instead, she laid her palm on its corpse, feeling warmth linger in the wood. Decay is not an end, she realized. It is a dialect of transformation. A luminescent stag appeared at dawn, antlers crackling with energy. It drank from a rain puddle, turning water to liquid silver. Compelled, Elara followed it to a moonlit pond. Her reflection fractured into versions of herself. A girl chasing fireflies, a crone weaving cobwebs into lace, a stranger with wildfire hair. She dipped her hand, and the water clung like honey. Sensations flooded her. The weight of her first heartbreak, the scent of her mother's jasmine perfume. The stag bowed, its breath frosting the air. To shift timelines, you must first meet yourself. Elara built a compost mound from fallen leaves, shattered teacups, and wilted dreams. Iridescent beetles swarmed the pile, their shells gleaming like oil spills. Days later, a chrysalis of unspoken words formed, translucent and throbbing. She whispered secrets to it. I fear I'll never belong. I regret the letter I never sent. The chrysalis pulsed, absorbing her words. When it split, a moth emerged, wings patterned with her handwriting. It alighted on the clockwork sparrow, now rusted silent. As the sparrow crumbled, a dandelion sprouted in its place, seeds glittering like tiny gears. Beyond the fence, Elara found timelines overlapping like watercolors. In the grove of echoes, her footsteps rippled through years. She glimpsed her younger self planting marigolds, face smudged with dirt. On impulse, Elara tucked a quartz pebble beside the girl, a paradox that reappeared days later in her present-day grove, smooth and warm. Time, she realized, was not linear. It was a spiral, always returning to what mattered. A storm flooded the garden, uprooting her last oak. In the mud, Elara found a mirror shard reflecting a star cluster. Shadows pooled around her, forming a silent choir, faceless figures humming a dirge that loosened her fear. She danced with them, her movements carving furrows in the soil. Where her feet stamped, mushrooms bloomed, their caps glowing like miniature moons. The stag returned, leading her to the golden tree. Its roots defied physics, vanishing into the earth only to reappear as constellations. Elara carved enough into its trunk. Amber sap oozed, trapping fireflies mid-flight. The tree's leaves unfurled into pages, recounting her ancestors' stories. A great-grandmother who'd swallowed her songs, a grandfather who'd buried his art. Elara added her own tale, ink blending with sap. At the solstice, Elara hosted a feast of release. Versions of herself arrived. The anxious child, the perfectionist, the martyr, bearing dishes. Regret stew, bread of old identities, wine of abandoned dreams. They buried the feast, not ate it. Bioluminescent mushrooms sprouted, spelling "You were always free" in ghostly script. The fence dissolved, its iron becoming wind chimes that sang in rain. The seedling matured into the tree of paradox, its fruit bittersweet. Each bite revealed a timeline. One where she'd stayed, one where she'd fled, one where she'd loved without fear. A seed lodged in her throat. She swallowed it, and the garden expanded. A single cell in a vast organism, roots threading through galaxies. The dandelion released its seeds. One landed in the compost, sprouting into a new sparrow, alive with moss feathers and a song like rainfall. It guided her to a spring where water defied gravity, flowing uphill. She drank deeply, retching a lump of hardened resentment. It crumbled, revealing a firefly trapped inside, now freed. Boundaries dissolved. The garden merged with deserts, tundras, and coral reefs. Distant figures tended their plots, other gardeners. They waved but kept their distance, honoring her sovereignty. A migratory butterfly landed on her palm, wings mapped with stars. It departed, stardust lingering in her lifeline. Elara crafted lanterns from journal pages, filling them with dormant fireflies. Their light revealed symbols in the soil. Trust the tilt. The lanterns floated skyward, forming the weaver, a constellation spinning timelines into tapestry. Elara laughed. The garden was never hers. It was a gift, borrowed and boundless. Seasons blurred. Snowflakes melted into roses. Dawn bled into twilight. Elara wandered, napping in the tree of paradox's shade, dancing with the silent choir. One evening, she found the fossilized firefly, now alive, buzzing in her cupped hands. She released it, watching its light merge with the stars. She became the question she'd carried all along, and in the asking, found her answer.